So welcome back to the channel. Let's talk money. Let's talk education. We hear that a lot, right? We hear that a lot. That black women are most educated, most enrolled. Someone else can go over those numbers. But I think one of the big reasons men say that well, men aren't really enrolling in college is because of the financial aspect of it on the other side. I've got to borrow copious amounts of debt to go outside into the real world where the degree is becoming less and less important. And I'm not getting a commiserate salary on the back end of it. I'd rather do something where, especially if I'm being told, and again, we're being honest, we're being fair, a lot of the times when we as men do things, initially, a lot of it is in a pursuit of women to become more attractive to women. You hear me say it again and again and again. Don't do that, but we do it. That's fair. I'm trying to play it down the middle here. So again, why a lot of us don't do that now is, and for full disclosure, I have my master's degree, but I got it because of my ego. I'm Nigerian. I needed to get it. I wasn't a real man until I got my master's. I wasn't accepted into the tribe. So a lot of us don't do it because there's no payout on the other end of it. Just take a look.
As I'm job searching, I am going to be honest. I have my bachelor's and I have my master's. I don't really want to do any more schooling. I feel like anytime you go into anything, they're always telling you that you need additional schooling. The investment is not giving what it needs to be giving. If I invested 60 grand in a degree, I should be expecting to make at least 60 grand.
Absolutely not. That's not how it works. That's how it's never how it worked actually. We fell into that trap where they showed us, and I'm sure if you you went to school in America, you saw that where they threw it in front of you. People with a bachelor's degrees over their lifetime made more money than people without. People with just a GED or a high school diploma. We stuck by that, and then when we wrote, we signed our name on the dotted line and said, "Hey, please give me money so I can go pursue this thing that's supposed to make me more money." There's again, maybe it's in the terms and conditions. I never took out student loans, but and I just know even when I graduated from my high school, and like I think it was 15th in our student graduating class, no one ever said, "Hey, you need to be cognizant of what your degree, what you major in, because you should be looking and seeing what does that end up paying you on the back end." Like basically work the math backwards. How much are these degrees paying you once you leave and once you go into the workforce? This degree is going to get you a job, an entry level job, or you could expect this sort of salary. We don't do that. We say, go into college, pursue what you're passionate about, and you'll never work a day in your life. We say that again and again and again. We still say it to this day, knowing there are more people like her. You're highly degreed, 2 degrees, they're on your wall, right? Congratulations. But you can't get a job paying you anywhere near what you need to pay back some of those loans. And some of those loans go into, that 6 figure territory they say they want men to make, right?
Y'all kept me at 40. So why is it that I'm steady investing in something that isn't going to be paying me back? Why do I need all of these degrees and all of these credentials and all of this education to do a job that isn't even paying me back what it is that I got?
That's the secret, right? That's the open secret. You don't need that, right? You don't need that amount of education to make that sort of money. The downside is it may be more manual labor intensive. Plumber, electrician, carpenter, right? You don't want to do those jobs, but those jobs will pay you because they're in demand. You don't see many women in these fields. You don't see many women, female mechanics, although our cars are consistently breaking down. One thing my father taught me in terms of jobs or business, you always want to put your money in or put your effort into things that are necessities or vices, right? That's what you can bet on the American vice. That'll make you money. Think McDonald's, think fast food, right? Think think illicit substances. I'm not saying invest in that, but that's the thing that's consistent. Necessities. Hospitals. People are always going to be sick. That's why people, that's why in my community, like, yeah, be a doctor. You're always going to need a doctor. Right now, in a highly litigious society, being a lawyer doesn't sound so bad until you look at the facts that it's kind of swamped. But these are things that the United States constantly says it needs. It constantly says it needs. Real estate. You're always going to need someone, a roof over your head, right? And they're not building any more land, so that becomes like a smaller, tighter commodity. So things like that ran through my head when I was thinking about, all right, where am I going to invest? What am I going to build for, like, say, a business? If you have the entrepreneur spirit, again, probably saw another video before. If that's not you, that's not you, and that's fine. That's fine. But for your regular 9 to 5, you need to find something that is going to stand the test of time or the test of the economy. Like right now, we're seeing massive amounts of layoffs in jobs we once thought were super secure. Think tech. We thought tech was never going to go out of style. People buying laptops and working in Bali, showing us how great the life is. And now the world changed, the world turned. And they say, hey, come on back home. You're like, I can't. Oh, you're fired. So we have to be cognizant of the way where the economy is going. We have to have our eyes on these things and then start making decisions that make sense for us. Things that we can see with our own eyes.
Like, sometimes I just wonder, what was the point of even going to college? And it's crazy. Sometimes I think about it because I was first gen. First person in my family to go to college and graduate twice. First person in my family to go to college in general. I went, and I come from, single parents. I come from a long line of single parents, single women who did the best it is that they could, and they weren't able to go to school, and they weren't able to do the things that they wanted to do because they had to also be a mom.
I know we could touch on a lot about that right there. I know we could touch on a lot about that. A long line of single moms. We can touch on a lot about that, but let's just focus on what this video is about.
And be the provider. They had to take care of us and make sure we were at the doctor and all of this other things, and also keep food on the table and also keep a roof over our head. And so I also look at it as, I'm grateful, right? I can do whatever it is that I want to do, but it be feeling so hard to do the things that I want to do when all I'm trying to do is just survive. And to be honest, I don't think that anybody who went to school, I don't think that first gen, well, I'll say this because everybody's experience is different. I haven't found out what works for me yet. Other people have found what works for them. Like, some people go to school and they use their degrees and everything's great. Some people know that they want to be a doctor and they go off and they're doing all the things that they want to do. But there's a lot of us that got degrees that are not using our degrees. What was the point? If you're first gen, if you didn't even understand any of that stuff, I don't think that we should really have to pay it back.
Yeah, the United States doesn't think like that, and I know it may seem like it makes sense, but the rest of us don't really agree with that. If there's a point in time, and my mom is very fond of saying this. There's a point in time where it's just personal responsibility, right? One of her big things growing up, and I didn't mean this video to be more story time, but she was always really cognizant of just saying, I want to give you all the tools you need, all the hugs you need, so you don't one day grow up, go on Oprah and say, you never got enough love from your mother. This is why you did all these bad things in life. We have real conversations just when it comes down to personal responsibility, i.e., understanding that your parents hopefully did the best they could for you, but they're fallible humans just like you, just like me. So they made mistakes. But those mistakes they made, we can't continue to keep blaming the generation before us. It's their fault. I'm effed up, or I'm not doing the things I should be doing because of my parents, because we're parents. At a certain point in time, personal responsibility has to be king. So if you signed on a dotted line, when the United States said you were allowed to do this, you were legally allowed to do this, and you did it, there was nothing part of that we're saying. And like, we'll take her case. You went as far as to get your master's. You didn't get your bachelor's and then test the market and see, oh, okay, I need this. Or while you're doing this is the point why we always talk about mentors. Mentors are supposed to save you time. Get a mentor, or once you start walking down that track in college, start seeing, what am I doing? Like my undergrad is in forensic psychology. I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a psychologist. I went in there and I saw, all right, it's going to take me getting at least my master's, probably my doctorate, to make starting 60K. And at the time, I was like, okay, I can end up being maybe a private practice thing, and then I can take off from there. But reality, life came and said, hey, I need you to step up now. So I had to step away from that and get, actually enter the workforce proper. So in that journey, you have to, you can't just walk it with your blinders on. You have to look at everything, absolutely everything. So this is how, and this is a political issue. We try to stay away from those because those can get kind of heated. And we can address those later on. But this is why a lot of people that fall on the other side of it say, well, you made the decision for your student loans. Why should those just be forgiven? And who's going to pay for that being forgiven? It's a hard thing for us to say that struggled and paid our own way and made sure we can do these things, to say, oh, because it didn't work out, I shouldn't have to pay. I wish I could do that with any type of other debt. This Lamborghini didn't work out. I shouldn't have to pay for it. I'm keeping it though. Please remember, I'm keeping it.
It was all just a scam. It was a scam. I really think that we paid for experience, but if you keep going with the flow of life, you get experience. And I'm not ungrateful for it, because I made a lot of friends in college. There's a lot of things that I learned in college. Y'all, I wouldn't know what jerk chicken is if I did not go to college. Like,
Could you could you imagine paying $100,000 to find out what jerk chicken? Don't get me wrong, I was jerk chicken, right? But could you imagine paying that much just to find out what it is, right? When you could have just went to a restaurant, or Instagram or Google would have showed you, like, hey, have you tried?
I love jerk chicken. Absolutely love it. But I don't want to do any more school. Like, what else do you need to see that I'm able to do, that I'm willing to just do as I'm told? You telling me that I need to get another degree? That even happened to me when I was teaching. I have a freaking master's. Why do I need to go back to school and invest in another degree? And the degree is costing more than what it is that y'all are paying me.
True.
Like, I'm so over it. Like, I don't even know how to feel right now. Like, the only thing that I want to keep my car. I'm willing to let my phone be turned off. I am hoping and praying that God creates a pathway for me to be able to keep my car. My car gives me my freedom, because living with my grandparents is stressful. I want to be able to get my own place, y'all. I gotta be making like 6 figures a month.
You're a teacher? 6 figures a month to afford? No, I'm. All right, let's continue. Let's continue.
6 figures a year, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I gotta be pulling in like $6,000 a month, because bedrooms and all of that other stuff is like $2,200 a month. And again, we talked about this before. When you pay for things, you're not just paying up front, because guess what? I gotta pay the utilities. I gotta have electricity. I gotta have water. I also gotta pay for different things like toilet paper. I gotta have toilet paper in the house. It's all of these different things that still need to be taken care of. So I can't just, if the rent is $2,000, I can't just be making $2,200. I still gotta eat. I still gotta put gas.
I think this is a good example of why, when we're degreed, that doesn't necessarily mean we're experienced or we're wise or we're ready, to live on our own or to be an adult. Because everything she's describing is being an adult. That is the cost of adulthood. Yeah, the rent is this, but then everything else is still there: food, utilities, right? Depending where you are, your car, insurance, emergencies. A lot of this, even after having a master's, is something that schools don't teach you. So again, it's that age-old question: what's the utility in being the most degreed, right? The most enrolled, the most degreed, if it doesn't prepare you for what life actually is? It becomes a moot point that, as men, we hear a lot, and we're judged by our lack of having the same education that she's just espousing is completely useless to her. What's the point in throwing that or using that as your own personal accolades when it doesn't really translate to real world success? What do you want more? Do you want to have the degree, or do you want to have the success in life? Or do you have the degree, or what that degree promised you were supposed to have? It's a choice and trade-off. And at this point, I think more people are waking up and seeing that, yeah, it's not a blanket statement like it once was, because it comes with a heaping amount of debt that's only going to make it harder for you to afford living on your own. This woman's living with her grandparents. Only gonna make it harder for you. You come from a long line of single mothers, and this is what is going to keep happening if you don't start transmitting down and saying, hey, and this is part of generational wealth. It's also the knowledge, the understanding that, hey, this is how things actually work. It would be great if things worked as promised, but society often tells you otherwise. And I think it's fair. It's very fair for us to look at society and say, look at society's plan and say, I got to tweak it, or I got to wholeheartedly reject it. Lastly, this is going again for the men. This is sometimes what we see when we're out dating. You see someone coming with this mountain of debt and confusion, and then before that is sorted out, they're looking at you and judging you for what you don't have or what you didn't do, even though by all means on the societal, economic, financial, scale, you may be ahead. You may not have, hey, I don't have this degree, but I don't have debt. What happens when emergency strikes, right? When car breaks down, these things matter. And again, we're not here saying all. I know plenty of women that have degrees, are financially sound, that I take advice from. I say, you're doing that one? Okay, let me tweak what I'm doing. That's a good idea. So we're not saying we don't want to be a channel paints with that broad brush, but we just have to talk in generalities. Otherwise, videos would be 16 hours long. And while I don't doubt you want to hear me that long, most engagement drops off about 2 minutes. So that's just data. That's not hurting my feelings or anything. So again, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.